Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Glue Stick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full time and have a collection of many videos on monster ecology, fantasy world history, cosmology, character classes and magic items on my channel. If you like what I do, please consider becoming a member of the channel by clicking the join button down below or backing me on Patreon. We can get access to all of the scripts I write for these vids, if you prefer to read what I'm saying. I have a Discord server with an active community, and of course subscribe to me here for 2 video uploads per week and a live stream every weekend. For this video, I'll be drawing directly on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th edition Draconomicons, published in 1992, 2003 and 2008 respectively, with my own insights added here and there, but this is predominantly directly from published lore because there's a few things you may not have known about the subject of today's monster ecology video. Blue dragons, also known as storm dragons, are among the most vain and prideful of an already very arrogant species. So it's fitting that I remaster the video on them first, out of all the chromatic dragons anyway. Dedicated carnivores, blue dragons prefer to eat large game. Depending on their chosen environment, it might be camels, horses, lions and elephants, or goats, rothae, sea lions and a variety of marine mammals, even sharks. With snacks of snakes and lizards, iguanas and turtles, perhaps the occasional cactus to floss their fangs. Those who tend herd animals best resign themselves to blue dragons taxing their livestock, and in some desolate regions, trade caravans certainly fit the blue dragon's menu in the absence of easier game. But blues are not known to hunt humanoids unless they just happen to be the easiest meat on offer. Blues use their lightning breath weapon to partially cook a fresh kill before wolfing it down, leaving nothing behind. They don't eat as often as other dragons thanks to their habit of taking such large meals. If they do take on a caravan, they will eat the animals first, interrogate the humanoids to see if they have extra hidden treasure within flying distance, and then eat them too. If they are so full that they could not eat another bite, they will probably let the humanoids go, not caring if it happens to be in the middle of a desert or a remote coast. Storm dragons enjoy lording it over weakling humanoids and other lesser creatures to prove that they can do so, rather than out of any desire for results. A blue dragon pays little attention to humanoids' feeble, squeaky voices, and might even forgive insults, but any suggestion that the dragon has any weakness or inferiority and it will instantly murder the source. Blues are also extremely territorial. They rarely give intruders, even accidental ones, the opportunity to explain themselves. However, they don't tend to set all manner of traps in their lair, not usually. They will instead use dominated or allied creatures to take care of intruders in person. They spend a fair amount of their time in their lair sleeping off large meals, but the rest of the time they take to the air and patrol their territory, loving the sky as much as silver dragons. They seek out and battle powerful enemies or other dragons who have violated what they consider to the borders of their domain. Combine this with the particular qualities that blue dragons prefer in their home turf, and their tendency to battle other blue dragons, bronze, brown and dragon turtles becomes understandable, as we'll discover soon. They are formidable combatants, particularly for bands of adventuring humanoids trying to vanquish one, as blue dragons rarely land during combat, preferring flight and far-reaching attacks to lumbering over the ground within close melee range. Because they like to fight from a distance, blue dragons consider combat a long-term engagement. They fly near enough to their opponents to unleash a few barrages, then vanish, and then return, sometimes minutes or even hours later, soaring up to the cloak themselves in clouds, all the while keeping a very close watch for their next opportunity to dive out of the sky and unleash devastation on their victims. On rare occasions, when a blue dragon hunts from the ground or rests away from its lair, it conceals itself beneath the terrain, burrowing with powerful claws and stout muscular limbs. Because most stormy regions have soft ground, such as the sand coastlines and deserts or the rich soil of forests, rainforest in particular, blue dragons find it easy to hide in this fashion. Many think that blue dragons are restricted to deserts or assume that they only prefer coastal regions, but it's not the landscape that draws them to certain places. It's the frequency of violent storms that they're after. Although coastal areas and seaside cliffs fit this description, so too do certain tropical islands and mountainous highlands not terribly distant from the pounding sea. If a blue dragon can't find a particularly stormy region in which to settle, it can make do with whatever terrain's available as long as it has its own territory A blue dragon might locate its lair on a mountaintop, or in the jungle, in the Underdark even, or in a desert. Anywhere except perhaps the coldest Arctic climes. But any blue living in a location that lacks frequent storms thinks of that location as temporary at best, a camp, if you will. Even if it ends up dwelling there for a few hundred years with an extensive lair, it will shift to a better location in a heartbeat, usually after slaying the dragon who formerly laid claim to it. Ultimately, a blue dragon finds happiness only in a place where it hears regular thunder beating on the horizon and where it can soar among clouds with the lightning. Many a sea captain has stories of the most spectacular storms close in to treacherous, dark, rocky coasts, graveyards of ocean-going vessels, and as the black sky lights up with crackling lightning, the sparkling outline of a blue dragon sweeps right over the ship's mast, the great beast roaring at the sky as if to challenge it. The scales of blue dragons are slightly more reflective than those of other chromatic dragons, usually because they've been buffed. A person could not use a blue dragon's scales as mirrors, but in blue or dark environments the scales take on the surrounding hue and blend into the sky or elements around them. It's not so obvious when you're looking at them on land, but quite amazing when they leap into the sky and your eyes just seem to lose track of them. Because its scales so closely match the surrounding sky, a flying blue dragon can make stealth checks to hide from creatures on the ground or at lower altitude, even if it doesn't have overly obvious cover or concealment. But given that they prefer environments where cloud cover is the norm, even other dragons are wary of going toe-to-toe, or rather wing-to-wing, with a storm dragon in the sky. The horns and brow ridge of a blue dragon funnel rainwater and other precipitation away from the eyes. When combined with a blue dragon's keen vision, this feature enables the dragon to see better in inclement weather than most other creatures do. A blue dragon ignores any cover or concealment granted by rain and other non-frozen precipitation. The wings of blue dragons are more flexible than those of other chromatics. Blue dragons use their wings to steer and boost their speed, like sailors tacking a ship. Close up, or in the lair where they've been resting for a while, the smell of ozone is strong around them. Those who stand right next to one may see the hair almost stand on end on their heads due to the electrical charge they generate, their very blood containing tremendous elemental force. The slightest wind outdoors can pull the odour away from them, though still humans are pretty sensitive to that electrical discharge smell. Storm dragons are not prone to sneaking up on creatures on the ground though. They prefer to pounce on them from above, so smelling them coming is not really an option. For their lairs, blue dragons favour enormous stone ruins or caves in the sides of cliffs or hills or mountains. Blues enjoy taking over structures built by other races as a sign of their dominance. They make their lairs as lofty as possible to survey their domains from the heights. As with most dragons, their eyesight is incredible, able to make out tiny details from miles away. Also, the elevation makes them feel truly part of storms that roll through the area. Even if a blue dragon can't find or construct a lair at high altitude, it will likely choose a lair in which it can easily access the main entrance only by flight. Would-be intruders on land thus must undertake difficult, if not nearly impossible, climbs. I favour attacking them with griffins and harpies while the adventurers cling to unstable rock faces personally. I don't overlook how much fun a giant crab or two in a rock chasm is with a churning ocean below. Keep in mind it's really hard to swim while wearing metal armour. Storm dragons stock their lair with treasures that are as visually appealing as they are valuable. Blues love gems, particularly sapphires and other blue stones. They equally admire lovely works of art and jewellery. They're famous for it. Although such an event is rare given blues' innate draconic greed, blue dragons have been known to leave behind treasure they find unattractive, feeling that the presence of such a treasure would sully the magnificence of their hoards. Thus, the magnificence of the dragons themselves is reflected in the magnificence of their treasures. Inside the lair, the dragon's favoured resting spot is a centre of a showcase of its fabulous wealth and accomplishments. Much like red dragons, blues will have their minions, typically kobolds, craft great frescoes and stunning attractive mosaic tile murals depicting the dragon's exploits, most of which are probably true, although they tend to move into the terrain and lair of former dragons and might borrow some of their legends as their own. Blue dragons are quite aware of how flesh golems and helm horrors and such operate, and will certainly include a few of them in their lair if possible. Flesh golems make ideal guardians of the dragon's hoard, as they can be quickly regenerated with the dragon's own lightning bolts. So, Territorial, dominant, and arrogant, yes, but when other creatures give due respect to the Storm Dragon's pride and territorial claims, they're actually one of the most reasonable of the chromatic dragon types. Some blue dragons live as peaceful neighbours of humanoid communities, or even, on occasion, other dragon varieties. They're not cruel, they don't seek to claim any more territory than they can realistically defend or need, and blues are wise enough to see the benefits of employing humanoids to perform tasks for them. Because blues enjoy the opportunity to command others, thus showing their superiority, and the accomplishment of goals without having to exert themselves. When you look at this objectively, you can see that this is like a flip side of the silver dragon's admiration for humans' drive and ambition. Blues care nothing for human ambition other than as a tool to get the little creatures to do whatever it wants. I often think of storm dragons as literal boss monsters. They keep a retinue of allies and toadies on hand, sending out enforcers, employing ambitious and powerful arcanists who seek their own paths to power, one-upping their rivals by being on side with a storm dragon boss. Storm dragons have power and abundance. When it comes to their attitude toward half-dragons, they only really show interest to those who are directly related to them. They have very little respect for lifeforms that are not true dragons, thus they would never consider a half-dragon to even have the potential to be an equal to a real dragon. They consider Dragonborn to be the spawn of Bahamut, basically mutations, but they respect the power of Dragonborn to build a cohesive military force and master both arcane and divine magic. Arrogant and self-absorbed as blue dragons may be, they are seldom very stupid and have a keen sense of tactics. They might not respect individual Dragonborn, but they certainly respect the power of a legion of them. Unlike other chromatic dragons, blues are quite lawful. They have a society and a hierarchy, even a leadership position among them in the greater regions they inhabit. Blue dragons are by their nature solitary creatures. However, blues do form into social organisations on a regular basis compared to other dragons, well, chromatics. The oldest and most powerful blue dragon in a particular geographical region is known as the suzerain, and all dragons within that region pay it official homage. The size of the region ruled by the suzerain varies depending on the dragon population or the region and the power of the suzerain. Obviously, a millennia-old suzerain worm can enforce fealty over a larger area and greater number of dragons than could a younger individual. While still evil and rapacious, blue dragons are highly lawful, particularly in dealings with the suzerain. All blue dragons within that territory claimed by the suzerain have three choices in how they deal with this. They can submit themselves to the suzerain's will and command, which is the most usual case, or they can simply leave the suzerain's territory, easily moving into the sphere of influence of another suzerain, or hopefully one more accepting of them, or finding an area where this has been claimed by no suzerain. The third option is to challenge the suzerain to a death duel, hoping to become suzerain themselves. Death duels are highly structured events. Official challenges must be given and accepted. The acceptance is compulsory, however, a suzerain refusing to accept a challenge is considered by all other dragons to have conceded their authority. The date and place of the duel are then set and communicated to all other blues in the territory and sometimes beyond it. And in the case of suzerains with high profiles, the duel site is often chosen to be a central location. Even outside the suzerain's official territory, the high moor region is often selected as it's just perfect for this sort of combat. Dragons from all over the realms will attend a duel like this. A duel is a red letter day for dragons, and few nearby blues fail to attend the spectacle. A duel day is not a good time to stumble into the blue dragon's territory, for sure. Such close proximity with others of their kind isn't an easy thing for solitary dragons to bear, and tempers often reach a hair-trigger state, not to mention the devastating effect it has on large animals in that region. The position of suzerain is largely ceremonial. While the suzerain officially has the authority of life and death over dragons within its territory, this authority is almost never used. About the only official duty that a suzerain has to perform is that of authorizing or denying petitions from dragons who wish to mate. Of course, should the entire territory be threatened, the suzerain can become the official commander-in-chief of a horde of blue dragons who will follow their orders without question, for the most part. Red dragons may be the most famous for their historic flights of hundreds of dragons who scorched the whole civilization of the ancient Aarakocra to the ground, but blues can mount an actual military force with a chain of command, which is quite something. For blue dragons, Mating is an important matter, constrained by social norms. As well as officially asking the suzerain for permission, the prospective mates must also swear an oath to remain together until the offspring of the union reach the age of 26, which is much younger than metallic dragon juveniles, but they tend to stay reasonably close to the lair for a while longer, looking after themselves, much like bronze dragons, but more on that in a moment. Storm dragon eggs incubate for approximately 22 months, the last 15 in the nest, and they with an average clutch of between 2 and 4, and most eggs hatch into healthy wormlings. Blue dragons grow from wormlings into the youth after about 7 years. They then become adults at around the age 160, and elders after about 1,000 years. They become ancient at about 1800. The oldest known blue dragon died at approximately, I think it's got it listed at 2,300 years, but I think we've got an example of one that lived 3,000 years, but I think that was through unusual means. A blue dragon that undergoes environmental diffusion, which means that their elemental spirit essentially merges force-like with the world around them, and it creates a permanent storm in the vicinity. This effect happens even underground. Through the cramped conditions might slacken the strength of the winds. Although the severity of the wind and rain rises and falls, ranging from gentle gusts and mild showers to hurricane-force torrents, the storm never dissipates entirely, regardless of the prevailing weather and conditions outside of it. So it could actually be tapped into by an enterprising wizard or druid or some such. As they age, the blue dragon wormlings stick to the safety of small caves and hillsides, cliff faces, or mountain walls. Sometimes they hunt from atop ancient stone ruins. They enjoy the safety of high places, and they instinctively love violent weather, just as their older blue dragons do. Storm dragon wormlings that live in seaside cliffs are exposed to tempests, and some are killed in the wrath of particularly powerful storms, but not many, and those that survive such punishment are considered the true heirs of dragonkind. The wormling's brow horn is a good size from the moment it hatches, but otherwise its face is clear of other growths, and its chin sports a cluster of elongated scales that resemble a beard, and its ears are large frills, more oceanic than atmospheric. Thick spines form a sort of a mane along the relatively short neck. Its scales are sky blue with a scattering of dark indigo patches. For a great example of a blue dragon in the Forgotten Realms, I can't go past, well, there's a few actually. I can't go past Irilithagra, who, thanks to her oversized teeth, is known as Sharp Fangs. She is known across the lands of Intrigue, the Anarok Desert, Kalimshan, and all the north of Faerun, and the Marching Mountains, and her current age is 1,347 years old, making her a great worm who has plagued the lands of Arm and Kalimshan and Tether for many centuries. She is the perfect example of a storm dragon in her prime, with a fearsome reputation based on her habit of dishing out disproportionate retaliation to any slight against her, which has deterred countless foes from making any move against her. The cost, if they fail, is simply too high to seriously consider it. As a result of that and her cunning and patient nature, she has amassed a wealth rumoured to be one of the largest dragon hordes on Faerun. She has looted from wizards, realms, religious orders, and many, many other dragons over a millennium. It's not the cartloads of coins and gems that make it so impressive though, although that is certainly impressive. It's the precious works of art and fabulous magic items that make it so jaw-dropping. Her hoard contains the eyes of Niral, the morning stone of every Tian, the fabulous Rycelin's tears, the bronze brazier of Memon, the complete funeral urns of Nakar, the actual goblet of the seven winds, the onion dome of Anaktir, the mysterious writhing rugs of Elimir, the Akabar's battle blade ring, the fanged shield of Shikkorort, Gazir, the so-called Desert's Edge, Karius, the Kraken Scourge, which she looted from an underwater kingdom, the demon shield called Karal Tiar, the master ring of Mal V, the monocle of Bagthalos, the staff of Shun. She doesn't use all these amazing magic items and such, she just hoards them and enjoys being the envy of every other dragon in the world. She's also the mother of Arogathos, the blue dragon once imprisoned by Halasta Blackhawk within the infamous Undermountain Mega Dungeon. This may or may not have something to do with her looting Halasta's abandoned tower in 150 DR when she was still just a wormling. She is most famous for battling the Emperor Shun VII in 3 major battles between 322 and 366 DR, the last of which resulted in 75,000 bystanders dead and destroyed Shun's right leg and left arm, and which he used as an excuse to become a lich, but anyway. That also resulted in her wings being shredded for a time, still for many years after Shun's successors paid Sharpfang a hefty tribute rather than risk her attacking again. The last recorded incidents, of which there have been many, was in Kalimshan in 1373 DR, where she managed to raise the Plaza of Divine Truth, destroying an idol of Baalros, which is their name for Talos, the god Talos, which summoned a divine aspect of Talos, the Storm Lord, riding a brass dragon, and the 2 dragons fought, destroying a fair bit of the city before Sharkfangs was driven off, not destroyed, once more, returning to her hidden lair somewhere in the Small Teeth mountain range between Arm and Tethir. She's no doubt sleeping as she spends decades at a time slumbering away among her fabulous treasures. Please hit the like button if you made it this far, subscribe if you like what I do, check out my Patreon for all the full scripts for these videos, buy some sweet merchandise from my Teespring shop, wear your geek with pride, and as always, my friends, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.